Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Sunday evening. Joining us from New York City is Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody.
Bontemps is headed down Florida way on Monday to he's going to Miami. I'm sure you're going there for Tyler Hero's return.
We're going there to take over the Mavs beat from Tim MacMahon for one day.
That's right. Speaking of the Mavs, joining us from Dallas, Texas, where you had more fun than you bargained for on Saturday night, Ben MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. Bontemps. Happy to give it to you. You can have it. Enjoy. Yeah, I got to tell you, a Saturday night football season game between, two teams that been struggling this year, to put it mildly, and it was hard on the eyes, but easy on the ears afterward. There was a little bit of drama for us to work with. A little bit. I ended up working a little bit harder than I thought, but these are the kind of stories that I do. I must admit, I enjoy them.
Well, all the extra work that MacMahon has been doing on the Mavericks beat not only has included some overtime games. And so on the group text, we were joking with him because the Grizzlies and Mavs look like coming down towards overtime. And he's like, oh, my God. He's like, I thought tonight was going to be an easy night. Little did he know that right after the game, well.
You know why I didn't go into overtime? Klay Thompson missed a potential tying three with 20.6 seconds remaining. And I think that might have been one of the things that a youngster brought up to him afterwards. A youngster wearing sweats.
Right. Well, it started. I don't know when it started, but because I wasn't watching the game, I just saw.
It started years ago. It started years ago.
Yeah. It started in the 2021 play-in, continued in the 2022 playoffs, but then last night.
Well, we haven't even said. In case everybody.
Klay Thompson and Ja Morant. I'm sure people have figured it out. But if they haven't, that's what we're talking about.
You would not. I would not assume that, Bontemps.
For our audience, I'm giving our audience credit.
Well, it was the weekend. Not everybody was on top of everything.
Klay had a couple little brouhahas. Brouhaha's a little bit strong. A couple little, confrontations during the game. The first one, the tall guy, as he called him, referring to Santi Aldama, was on the ground underneath the basket in the paint. And Cooper Flagg started to run up the court, and he did the old grab the ankle trick and tripped him up. Klay let him know he did not appreciate that, and no uncertain terms. A little review, got upgraded to a flagrant one, and on they went. And then later in the game, Klay Thompson and Vince Williams Jr., this appeared to just be kind of your general game-related trash talk. They both got teed up. So Klay was in a couple of little dust-ups during the game. And it was actually, Klay had a season-high 22, made 6 threes, didn't miss the potential time one. Honestly, forced one up with about 20 seconds left from 29 feet. Missed that. Mavs lose again. And Ja Morant wearing sweats made the point to, get some words of discouragement in to Klay Thompson. Klay didn't want to have any of it. He came back and they had a little chit chat. At one point, Ja had his finger in Klay's face, security and coaches and whatnot, got involved and got him separated. And then Ja went to congratulate Cam Spencer, who happened to be doing the broadcast interview, the Grizzlies broadcast walk-off interview on the court, and got another little jab at Klay, tell him who the best shooter on the court was. It wasn't Bruff from Golden State, something along those lines. And so, we go in the locker room, and once Klay's ready to chit-chat, he was asked about his exchange with Ja Morant, and he had some stuff.
Hold on. He was asked by you. And I just want to say,
I didn't ask the original one.
All right, hold on. I'm going to ask for a 30-second timeout. Bontemps, we're going to pretend like MacMahon's not here right now.
Okay.
MacMahon is one of the rarest of basketball journalists in that he is absolutely fearless in asking questions and has been for many, many years. And that's not to say that other people are fearful, but it takes guts to step forward to a player when you, or a coach or an owner,
I'm sure listeners will be shocked to know MacMahon's not afraid to shoot his mouth off.
That's right.
Nobody who's listened to the pod has ever been able to figure that out.
But allow me to add a little bit more nuance to it.
For sure.
Is that MacMahon has like a pitcher. Like, you see, MacMahon has, you think that he, his attitude on this podcast, he's pure Texan, and he sometimes plays a little bit like, the heavy. Sometimes he plays, a little bit of a character. But MacMahon can change speeds.
Sometimes
MacMahon can change speeds. Okay, he can bring a fastball, and he can throw a changeup and throw a curveball. And I've seen him do it. It's like, by the way, this is one of the things I would always say that I learned over the year about Greg Popovich. Popovich was a complicated interview, but Popovich always reversed what was brought at him. And so I would reverse to Popovich. So if Popovich would come hard, I would come back at him soft. And if Popovich would come soft, I would sometimes come back at him hard, because that's what he would do. Because like sometimes if you ask Popovich a hard question that he didn't really want to answer, he would be sarcastic back. And sometimes if you asked him a basic question to establish dominance in the interview, he would come back hard. MacMahon has a little bit of that in him too. And so
what is the media ombudsman thing you're pulling here? Noah Weber, who writes for the Smoking Cuban,
I am praising you and setting up what happened in this interview.
Well, Noah Weber,
Klay Thompson. Go ahead.
Noah Weber started it off. A young little fella started it off, and he basically asked about all three things. And Ja, went through the deal with the tall guy, Aldama.
You mean Klay? Klay went through.
I'm sorry, Klay, my bad. Klay went through the deal with the tall guy, Aldama, and basically made it clear he thought that was dirty, and referenced, without being specific, the dirty shot by Dylan Brooks in the 2022 series that broke Gary Payton II's elbow, basically saying, they do that kind of thing. And then he touched on the Vince Williams Jr. thing, basically, whatever, kind of generic in-game trash talk. And then he hit on Ja.
Yes, and let me just say, I don't know, Klay is both a golfer and a fisherman. So I don't know if you want to say that you put it on a tee for him, or whether you want to say you bait the hook.
Well, no. With Ja, he said he's a funny guy. He has a lot to say all the time, especially for a guy who rarely takes accountability. And then he was like, but that's for another time. And then
MacMahon was like, no, it's going to be for this time.
I followed with a very simple inquiry. I said, what did Ja have to say on this occasion?
Like I said, nice and soft, Bontemps.
Our guy is very good at his job and a very good interviewer, but this was not exactly a hard one to get out of Klay.
Klay wanted to.
Let me do the.
MacMahon's great. That's not any criticism of MacMahon.
Let me do the myth building here. You just pipe down.
Yeah, I like the myth building.
MacMahon's got a
Jackson,
grin the size
his
of
whole.
Texas.
Edit Bontemps' whole retort out.
MacMahon's got a grin the size of Texas right now for people watching on his favorite medium, YouTube, so they could see his smiling face. So he's loving it, as he should be.
This was not difficult, because Klay clearly had something to say.
That's right.
Basically, it was an eloquent version of saying, keep going. And he did. So what did Ja have to say on this occasion? And Klay said, nothing of intelligent depth. Anyway, he says it was just running his mouth, and he's been running his mouth for a long time. It's funny to run your mouth when you're on the bench. It's kind of the story of his career so far, just leaving us wanting more. We all want to see him out there and do his best, but he's just been letting a lot of other stuff get in the way of that. We need that in the NBA. We need our best players to be out there. And when you're a star, it comes with a great responsibility. I hate to see that go to waste.
Yeah, that was a devastating quote.
Klay said a lot there, and he didn't say one single lie.
No. How many people do you think in the Grizzlies organization read those quotes and were like, this is exactly what needs to be said?
I mean, yes, and I will give you this. Is Klay a bit of a grumpy old man now? Absolutely.
Well, Klay has been like this since he was a young, not grumpy old man too. He has always been a straight shooter.
he stepped to LeBron in the 2016.
Yeah, but if Klay has been a straight shooter from day one.
Right, and if you want to take shots at Klay being grumpy, look, he is older. He has been struggling this year. He did come to Dallas thinking he was going to be competing for championships and is far, far, far away from that. But what Klay also is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is a 4-time champion. And for perennial MVP candidate, most disappointing player candidate, Ja Morant, to be wearing a freaking Nike sweatsuit and want to yap like a chihuahua at Klay Thompson at the end of a game, like, give me a break, dude. Okay. And so Klay had every right to basically put this guy in his place.
But it was more than that. He was like, it's like when your parents would say, I'm not mad at you, I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
Like that's basically what he said.
Well, like, there's a lot of history.
Place right now. There is a lot of history. There's a lot of history. The tension's been simmering for years. Again, we can go back to 21 playing when the Grizzlies did eliminate the Warriors. 22 the next year.
I know, but this is a different level. He took this to a different level.
What I was going to say with the history thing is the truth of when you have history like this and there's long-term animosity, the most damaging thing you can do in a situation like this is do what Klay did, which is tell the truth. Because there's no arguing with anything he said at all.
Right.
Any of it.
And Klay,
the guy doesn't play, and when he does play, he's not very good at this point.
No, and Klay did mention that he used to really respect the grit and grind era Grizzlies. By the way, it's gone from grit and grind to quit and whine in Memphis. But
that's one of the lines he's been waiting to use.
Oh,
the MVP line, in that one. He had him lined up for days.
Oh my God, man!
You got on me about the just average is what Ja stands for, and I do. I take that one back because this year's been just abysmal. Anyways,
by the way, Cam Spencer, Cam Spencer has a good finish to the game.
Yeah.
He's all, like, I wonder I don't know Cam Spencer, but like Cam Spencer's getting this post-game interview, he's like, we need to win in the worst way,
yes.
Got this victory, and here's Ja coming over, like talking to the camera, like during Cam's thing, like taking shots at Klay. I gotta be thinking Cam's going, man, I just want to have a Saturday night here.
Yeah. And you could tell Cam was like, I don't want to be part of that. Like he dapped him up and he was like, and look, it was a win that they desperately needed, that Ja was not a part of, that he made about him, which, and another thing Klay said after saying how much he respected the grit and grind Grizzlies, on this one, he said, they just talk a lot. They've always talked a lot and never really backed it up either. So I don't really respect that. I respect guys who back up the talk with play because talk is cheap. And
some of the talkers aren't there anymore, but
right. But Ja's always been the primary one.
Yeah.
And hey, Ja was an ascending superstar who, ever since we find in the West, it has been one disappointment after another, off the court and on the court. I mean, for Ja to be barking and trying to show up a guy who's a 4-time champion, Klay Thompson will win more champions than Ja might win playoff series in his career. It's 4-1 championships to playoff series victories right now. Like, I'm sorry, but like Ja Morant does not have the right to try to show up a guy like Klay Thompson. I guess he has the right. He has the right to make a fool of himself, but that's what you're doing in that situation. And for Ja to even be talking about Klay's current state on the court, look at Ja's numbers this year. The guy shooting.
Well, our buddy Tom Haberstroh had the stat, which is since Klay came back from both tearing his Achilles and his ACL, he's played in more games than Ja.
Yeah,
and again, that says all you need to know about the state of the two.
Well, if the suspensions are one thing, they are Ja hurting Ja, but whatever. The injuries, you can call it unfortunate, but even when he's on the floor, when Ja's been on the floor this year, he's been terrible. And so why are you deciding that when your team pulls out a desperately needed win over a bad Mavericks team on a Saturday night, that you feel like it's time for you to go taunt a first ballot Hall of Famer. Who's that helping?
Well, it was an enjoyable evening after that, I'm sure.
For us.
Yeah. All right. Well, on Friday, Bontemps had an interesting story where he talked to folks around the league. And what would you say this was the one thing that you sort of got one sentence about all 30 teams based on your conversation?
One lesson I've learned about each of the 30 teams in the league over the first month of the season.
And it wasn't one sentence. Bontemps is incapable of doing one sentence at a time.
Yeah.
One sentence would have been a lot easier. I was encouraged to not worry about length. So
he did.
I wrote plenty. I did.
Well, there's a couple that you have here that the one you had on Memphis, by the way, was the lesson after 1 month is that Ja Morant isn't the same player. And, he's got this calf injury.
Well, the stat on that I think is very telling is every single year of Ja's career, he has shot less of a lower percentage of his shots at the rim.
Mm-hmm.
Every single year from his first year till now. It was 33% his rookie year. It's down to 15% now. And by the way, he's shooting 17% from three. So, that's just not a very good player. And what's probably going to be a theme of the pod, there's been a lot of discussion about what's Ja Morant's future. Why is anyone rushing to trade for Ja Morant? To me, there's little reason to. You're talking about a guy who is owed a bunch of money the next couple of years, is hurt a lot, and is a formerly explosive guard who's not that explosive, who can't shoot.
Well, that's
set aside the rest of it. That's not a very appealing player to go trade for.
There's been no improvement on the jump shot. There's just been an increasing reliance on it. And that's why I'm having fun with the just average, just abysmal stuff. But seriously, if he's not an elite paint attacker, he's not a difference maker in a positive direction.
He's shooting 36% from the field this season.
He was a dominant force because he was as good as any guard in the league at attacking the cracks of a defense, getting in the paint, and just making things happen, whether it was attacking the paint and spraying out or attacking the paint and going up and finishing. He used to be the best in the league at that, and it's something he has said himself, he doesn't want to do it anymore. Oh, I get hurt. Well, okay, if you're going to go out there being worried about getting hurt, you're on a max contract, that's a terrible contract then.
Well, the Grizzlies, I should say, have won 2 in a row because last week before they went to Dallas, they beat the Kings at home by 41. And Ja was obviously out for that game, as was Jaren Jackson. The Kings
who's also out in Dallas.
We'll see how Memphis does Monday at home against Denver.
Yeah. So the Kings had lost, I think, 8 in a row. They come back and win Saturday at home. They finally came home and beat the Denver Nuggets in a get back game for.
Well, the game was in Denver, but it was the second night of a back-to-back for the Nuggets without Aaron Gordon
and Christian Brown, and both of those guys are going to be out for a while. The Nuggets have some serious challenges.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Nuggets in a second. So I will say that your line on the Kings here, Bontemps, was lesson after 1 month. It's time to start over, and so the Kings did come back and win on Saturday in Denver. That finished this 5-game road trip, which has been it was rough for them, and it was will you call it a Denver a comeback or game, a return game for Russell Westbrook? He had a great game. He had 21 points and 11 assists. He was
also minus 13 in 30 minutes in a game they won by 5.
That's true, but
all the way around.
Yeah, he had he could claim victory.
No, he certainly could. No question.
And he did. But the Kings, it's just going so poorly there. They're 4-13, I believe, and Sabonis has got a meniscus injury, which, guys, are we bringing Domantas Sabonis back? I mean, they said 3 to 4 weeks, but what are we doing here?
Also, can you trade him while he's hurt?
Well, I mean, again, could you trade him if he's not hurt? I think the answer is no.
And when you ask me, can they trade Zach LaVine? Well, how does Zach LaVine end up in Sacramento? But after a year and a half of the Bulls trying very hard to trade him, Sacramento finally was the team that was willing to make a deal for him. DeRozan's
and he was the make weight. LaVine was the make weight with a couple of first round picks in a De'Aaron Fox trade. So it was really, we'll get in Zach LaVine with multiple first round picks, and that's the return for De'Aaron Fox, which I think in a vacuum, if they were making a De'Aaron Fox trade anywhere, was a fine return. But to your point, MacMahon, there's not a market to turn around and turn Zach LaVine into stuff. There's no market to turn Domantas Sabonis into stuff. There's not much of a market to turn DeMar DeRozan into stuff.
DeMar DeRozan,
they are just stuck.
DeRozan he makes $25 million and he's non-guaranteed next year. That's more of a tradable contract than LaVine.
It's more tradable than those guys making the money that they're making.
Right.
But I still would argue that there's a pretty limited market for DeMar's services.
I would agree, but it's an easier trade.
Sure.
Zach LaVine has a $49 million player option for next year.
Yeah.
That's just it's a tough sell. And Sabonis, for quite a few years, was on a contract where he was outperforming. He was making the All-Star team several times on a sub-max contract. Well, when the Kings renegotiated and extended his contract 2 years ago, when you talk to GMs and stuff, they're like, Sabonis is a really good player, but he's not on a good contract anymore. Right. In fact, I was talking to a GM the other day, and he's like, you media people, I see you guys thinking these, he's like, you talk about these guys with contracts like they're on their old contracts. They and I'm not going to say any more of that, but he cited Sabonis as a classic example. He's like, he's a fine player, but
I'm sure Lauri Markkanen was part of that discussion also, which I would guess is the other player that's part of that. And I think one thing that I think the fans have not, and I don't know how much the sport has caught up with, is guys making a lot of money, like north of $40 million, are going to be really hard to trade. And just in general, the market for those guys is not what it is when you look at the names on the back of the jersey. I would point to the Kevin Durant trade, where Kevin Durant got traded for Dylan Brooks is a starter. I think you can argue whether Jalen Green's a starter. It's a negative/toxic contract, and they got a lottery pick. Karl Towns got traded for 2 better players, and Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle, and a worse pick. Yeah. That's sort of what...
Even Jimmy Butler. And now, I think the point there is, it's not that guys on those big contracts won't get traded, but unless it is a Giannis, I would say a Luka, but they didn't get that much of a...
Yes.
But there's
Luka,
a short list of guys.
They at least got a frontline all-star. I mean, he's been injured, but I mean...
My point is there's a short list of guys that would get the kind of what we've been trained to recognize as the superstar trade return.
Yep.
But I think I think the KD is much more when the Mavericks trade Anthony Davis, a KD from the Suns type of return is a reasonable.
You can draw a line of demarcation after Mikal Bridges, right? In the era of 4 firsts for Rudy Gobert and 3 firsts and players for Donovan Mitchell.
I would even back up, because there's a very significant difference in the Mikal Bridges trade. He was making $20 million. The guys, the line of demarcation here is expensive veteran star players, guys who are big name players who you think, Anthony Davis is a prime example. We're going to talk about it later. But you hear Anthony Davis, he just got traded for Luka Doncic. There's all this, and MacMahon was the first to report. The Mavericks are looking at the possibility of trading Anthony Davis. I talked about this in the summertime. They have to trade Anthony Davis, in my opinion. They have to get out of this money. He's owed $54 million this year. He's owed $58 million next year. He's owed $62 million the following year. They have to move on from him. However, a guy making that much money, even Anthony Davis, who is still a very good player, has a very limited market of teams that are going to be able to take him let alone give you back any value. And that's where it's going to be difficult for the Mavericks to make a trade.
But I do think that makes this more interesting for the league, because if his price is not that quote unquote high, it brings contenders into the market for him.
I would disagree with that. Because
I agree with that. Said as much on the hit YouTube show Howdy Partners last week with Michael C. Wright.
Okay.
But seriously, like Anthony Davis, it's always a
contenders can't take on that money. That's the problem.
How do you define contender in the Eastern Conference? I think we can get in the semantics of that, but there are a handful of Eastern Conference teams that I can talk myself into in the right deal. Anthony Davis being a potential difference maker in terms of them being able to make a run out of the Eastern Conference.
Okay, so Detroit's the obvious one. Who else would you put in that group?
I could talk myself into Atlanta. I could easily
I don't see Atlanta doing Atlanta. I don't see Atlanta taking on that kind of number for the next 2 years and going way into the tax for Anthony Davis. I don't, especially where they could potentially have the number 1 pick in the draft coming next year, which is going to be another.
By the way, have you guys been paying attention to Derek Queen?
Derek Queen's a very talented player.
When I saw him, hey,
he's a very talented player, and the Pelicans keep on losing ball games.
They do, and they like him a lot in Atlanta, but they didn't like him at the end of the game the other night. They like him because he's, that trade is going to deliver a high lottery pick. They didn't like him with like 15 seconds left as the Hawks are dribbling out the clock, sneaking in from behind, stealing it, going coast to coast for a dunk. That
was amazing.
Also a little post-game brouhaha there.
All right, well,
hey, what about your rolling Toronto Raptors? What about the Miami Heat? I'm just saying, I could tell.
The Heat. All right,
hold on.
I will address one of those if you want.
Hold on. Bontemps, less than after 1 month, Chicago Bulls. They could be a potential trade destination.
That's ripped me.
Well, listen, here's what I would say. If you're the Bulls, like the kind of deal that I think would make some sense for Anthony Davis is if you're the Bulls, if you could get Anthony Davis for expiring money and getting rid of Patrick Williams with your pick, if you're going to be a playoff team, I can understand doing that trade.
I think
I'm just saying, like
something better than that. To me, I think the Mavericks have to push for a better deal than that.
Well, they could push for it, but I'm not sure. Like Miami, for example, I don't know if Miami is taking on Anthony Davis in 2 years at $63 million.
Well, and then
again, Toronto,
Miami, we don't know, and the league is not. From the reporting I've seen, the league has not come down on one side or the other. Can Miami trade Terry Rozier's contract?
Right, as far as I know, that is not clear.
Flow into a deal.
Right. But again,
I do not believe there's been an official edict on that.
Yeah, right? I don't think there's clarity on that.
But I would say you should know. I mean, you should. I think he's supposed to be doing court on Monday. I think those guys are supposed to do on court in the next week. You should know that there's some strings that come attached with trading for a guy under federal indictment.
Not if you waive the physical and he never steps foot in your locker room.
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
He is an expiring contract. It is an interesting situation. But, again, Toronto, for example, right? Toronto could give you some combination of Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl. But again, if you're Dallas and you're looking at being right now a team that's going to be costing you near $400 million next year, whatever Anthony Davis trade you make has to save you a lot of money next year. A trade with Toronto is only bringing you back as much or more money, and then you're stuck in the same situation without Anthony Davis.
Players aren't as good.
Well, yes. An AD trade, you've got, if you're the Mavericks, a good AD trade provides some significant financial relief next year. That's where you're talking about expiring contracts. And something that can be of value moving forward in the Cooper Flag era. Preferably multiple picks. That's probably going to be tough. Picking a swap, and at least a young player who, you can see as a rotation player for long term. That to me is the ideal Anthony Davis deal. And it's not going to be something that excites people, but that's the kind of business the Mavericks will be, I believe, looking to do.
Yeah, I mean, that I think is exactly the kind of trade that's realistic in some form. But again, this is a guy that just got traded for Luka Doncic. Like,
I know.
that's the problem. Is
The guy
the
who made that
idea?
trade is currently unemployed, and
No, I get it.
screwed that up. That's
I get
dumb.
it. But like the idea of trading Anthony Davis, like you said it perfectly earlier, MacMahon. The idea of trading Anthony Davis has everyone trained to think,
Mhm.
well, they're going to get 3 firsts and 2 swaps, and they're going to get 2 good young players, and they're going to get all this stuff. It's not going to. I shouldn't say it's not going to happen because we keep saying the Luka trade happened, so sure, like it's like the corollary. You always have to add everything now that something crazy could happen. But you talk to people in the league, there's not a lot of teams that are lining up to take on a 35-year-old Anthony Davis making $63 million. Like, and you have to assume he's going to opt into that deal. So a lot of this is going to be, can Dallas find someone willing to take on the money? If the answer is yes, then you go to, okay, if they're taking on the money, what are they sending out?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, like, you look at Atlanta, like, Atlanta's done a good job stacking these contracts. They obviously don't have a deal done with Trae Young yet, who's making less money because they haven't come to an agreement on something that makes sense for him. Are they going to take on Anthony Davis, who's making way more than Trae Young will be, to have him on their books for the next 2 years? I don't think so.
Trae Young's a quasi-expiring contract.
Yes, but again, it's like Atlanta's been mindful of their books, I think, as of now. And that's, again, like AD's making, $10 million more than Trae. Like, it's just that number is so big. It's really hard for a lot of teams, especially in season, to take that money on right now. And that's where it's going to be a challenge for any of these big name players that you think about for the next 3 months or going forward into the offseason and beyond. Like, the Kevin Durant trade, I think, was a canary in the coal mine for what you should expect these kinds of deals to look like going forward. And I think it's going to be a much different financial system in the league. And it's going to, I think, take a while for people to really recalibrate that. And this Anthony Davis situation in Dallas, it's like, I mean, the Luka trade just keeps being more painful for Mavericks fans. But like, whatever the outcome on this AD thing is eventually, it's not going to be, I wouldn't think, a trade that's going to be a feel-good trade.
I've never understood canary in a coal mine. What's the issue there?
Because if there was poisonous gas in a coal mine, you send a canary down there, and if the canary dies, it's like, it's an indication, or you keep a canary down, and if the canary dies, it's an indication that there's something bad about to happen. And it's
why the canary?
I don't know. They used a canary. That is what they used to do. Or not necessarily a coal mine, but a mine in general.
I thought the canary might be the messenger, but no, the poor canary is a sacrificial canary.
It's like it's like the beginning of a trend. The canary in the coal mine. Am I saying that correctly, Mr. St.
You are. That is correct. That is it.
For the Miami Heat, you said lesson after 1 month. Last year was no fluke for Norman Powell. Should point out that Norm, friend of the pod, had 32 points on Sunday. The Heat won their 4th consecutive game. They are getting Tyler Hero back on Monday's game against the Mavericks.
Yep.
The Heat have been up and down because of the injuries, not just to a Hero, but also to Bam Adebayo. But Eric Spoelstra playing a system with sort of the new age system. Forget about the pick and rolls. And play high tempo. I don't know if they're leading the league in possessions, but if they're not leading it, they're in the top 3. Playing high speed, and it's designed for a team that doesn't have a ball dominant star, which I don't know if you classify Hero as that, so that'll be interesting. But
no, I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be a really good fit for him too. And I would say that we've talked a lot about how it's a really good fit for Jaime Jaquez, who's had a really good year for them off the bench as a 6-man contender. But the way he's played early on, it's also a perfect fit for Norm Powell. And he's a guy who's you watch the Heat play, they're moving the ball, a guy gets an open shot, they have a green light to take it, and if they have a matchup to attack in a straight line drive, they can attack it. And Norm has been a perfect fit for the way they've played and has been awesome. And again, like you go back to the summer, like getting Norm Powell for Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson, like again, like there wasn't a ton of interest in Norm for a variety of reasons. Like combo guard position is, well, he wanted an extension, but also like that combo guard position has kind of been a weird spot in terms of finances around the league. And like, that's not a position that we've seen a lot of guys getting paid a lot out of, which is part of why Norm was available. But from a talent standpoint, it was a big upgrade. And the way they've shifted their offense, it's been an absolutely seamless fit. And he has been flat out awesome.
Dude, his production is ridiculous. In barely 30 minutes a game, 30 and a half minutes a game, he's averaging 25.4 points with a true shooting percentage of 65.8.
Completely insane.
By the way, they are the fastest paced team in the league by over 2 possessions per game. This is a system designed to play fast. So, you're going to keep the minutes down, but they're playing fast and they are attacking, and he is perfect fitting into that.
And he shoots 7 threes a game at 46%. I mean, he's been awesome. And that's why with Bam Adebayo out for a chunk of time and Tyler Hero not playing at all, these guys are 11-6. Like a lot of it, I mean, obviously they've had a lot of guys play well, but a lot of it comes out of Norm being flat out awesome and picking up that scoring load for them. Well, these guys have been out, and now they can have him and Tyler Hero out there together. And I think it's got a chance to be really fun to watch.
Okay. This one got MacMahon's, MacMahon's eyebrows sometimes tell the story. On the pod, you can't always tell, but in person, you can tell.
Yep.
What you learned, or one lesson after 1 month, Giannis Antetokounmpo has been the NBA's MVP.
He's a legitimate candidate, but like how you can just definitively say Giannis has been the MVP is like, there's a lot of guys that are doing insane things, including the guy who won it last year, who never plays in the fourth quarter, is averaging 30 some odd points per game for a team that's lost a game, one singular game.
They went to 17-1 today. They beat the Blazers by like 27.
They are 11-6-1. 11 times they've won when Shea sat out the fourth quarter. 6 times they won when he actually had to play in the fourth quarter, and 1 time they lost. That's what we should define their record by those columns now.
Didn't their loss, wasn't that on the second night of the back-to-back?
To Sacramento.
Yeah.
No, it was to Portland, who they smoked tonight. And the first night of that back-to-back, I saw them the night before when they beat the Clippers to go to 8-0, which is the best start in OKC chapter of the franchise history. But it was one of those, I don't want to badmouth Peacock, but the 8 o'clock Pacific tips, oh man, that's too much. 8 o'clock. So it was a late tip.
Says the guy in the Central Time Zone.
It's 10 o'clock.
Yes, it's an hour later in the Eastern Time Zone.
Anyways,
that's all.
So not only was it a back-to-back, but it was a back-to-back. They didn't leave the arena until after midnight. Then they had to get on a plane and go up to Portland.
Can I give you an AJ Mitchell update just while we're here?
Wait, there's one thing about their one loss. They led by 22, and Portland tracked them down and won by a bucket.
Just in case you wanted to know how AJ Mitchell did on Sunday, Shea had 37 points in 30 minutes, 13 of 18, 9 of 9 at the line, plus 27. AJ Mitchell, he played 24 minutes. He was 8 of 8 from the field, 2 of 2 from 3, 20 points, plus 24 in 24 minutes. Just thought I'd brief you on that little scenario.
Yeah. And look, I'm not saying Giannis.
Like, by the way, why wasn't the lesson after 1 month on the Thunder? It was 70 wins is in play. Yeah. How about how AJ Mitchell should be? Maybe I was wrong with Zubac. Maybe I should have talked about AJ Mitchell for all NBA.
I was going to say, well, if you're talking about the list of MVP candidates, we got to get AJ Mitchell on there.
Hey, he's going to be an All-Star weekend.
As a rookie sophomore, for sure. But dude,
you would think so.
Luke is averaging roughly 35, 9, and 9 for a team that's winning. Shea, 32 points in 33 minutes. The other numbers are great for a 17-1 team. Joker is all he's doing is going for 30, 13, and 11 for a 12.
All these guys are really awesome.
I mean,
what's the name of the award?
Bontemps' case is what happens to the Bucks when Giannis
it's not the NRSPC net.
The name is most valuable player, and if you take, all these guys are awesome. We'll see who wins the award. As I said in the story, when you take Giannis off the court, the Bucks go from having the best offense in the league to the worst offense in the league, and they go from being plus 8 to minus 12.
Look at their record. Why you would just forget about advanced stats? They're out of the playoffs right now.
And you look in the 2 games they played without. Yes, they're in 11th. To go back to our conversation the other day about the depth of the Eastern Conference, they're 500. They're out of the play-in currently in the East. And if you look at their roster, the last 2 games they played without him, they shot 40% from 3 in both games. They lost to a Philly team with half their team out in overtime, albeit Tyrese Maxey had to have a huge game. But their offensive rating while shooting 40% from the field was 105, which is, again, about dead last in the league. And then they got annihilated by the Pistons. And then they got annihilated by the Pistons in their last game. And they again shot a bunch of threes and hit over 40% of their threes.
Throw Cade Cunningham in the MVP conversation. Look, dude, don't do the straw poll then. Don't do the straw poll because the MVP is just net rating swing.
No
more straw poll.
I think, you can quibble with the headline of the lesson, but the lesson learned about the Bucks was if Giannis isn't on the court, they're one of the worst teams in the league.
It took you a month of the season to figure that out?
Well, I'm just saying, if you look at how they've played out, I'm sure the Bucks came into the season arguing they had ways to prop their team up around Giannis and they were going to be okay when he didn't play. But I didn't think they were going to be that good when he didn't play. And that's been backed up by how it's looked on the court, where Giannis has been unbelievable. And when he's played, they've been very good. And when he hasn't played, they've been very bad. And now he's going to be out for a while. And it's probably going to keep looking very bad. Because I would say outside of probably Brooklyn and Washington, I'm not sure there's another team I'd take over them without Giannis. Because the rest of the roster is pretty rough.
You take the Pelicans over them?
I mean, the problem with the Bucks is I would actually probably say the Pelicans would win only because the Bucks have Ryan Rollins who can create shots for other guys somewhat, and they don't really have anybody else at the moment. Give the ball to Kuzma, but it's just not. They have a lot of good shooters, and they've hit shots in these games, and they might be able to steal some wins hitting threes. But it's just the team is built to have Giannis at the middle of it with shooters around him. If you take Giannis away, there really is no plan B.
Well, I understand your case, but I don't think he's the.
That's fine.
The Nuggets are only 19.9 points worse per 100 possessions offensively.
Yeah, sure.
Well, let's talk about the Nuggets.
Fine.
So less than after 1 month, late season, Jamal Murray has arrived early, which this came out Friday before we knew that Aaron Gordon had a grade 2 hamstring strain, which 4 to 6 weeks before being reevaluated.
Man,
you're talking 2 months plus.
Well, and Christian Brown is out for 6 weeks or so. The Nuggets are really, and they improved their depth, but they're not that deep. I mean, they're starting Spencer Jones right now.
Well,
he's been pretty interesting, by the way, Spencer.
Okay,
Jones.
Fine. Pretty interesting as your 10th man is a good place for him.
Just saying.
All right. Well, Peyton Watson, who didn't get a contract extension, first round pick from 3 years ago, didn't get a contract extension, switched agencies, is now going to be getting a lot more minutes. And so far this year, he's shooting 51% overall, not shooting a ton of threes. And that's sort of the thing with him is he doesn't shoot a ton of threes, but his percentage is pretty good. He's rebounding better than he has ever in his career. Again, it's not great. He's not going to be Aaron Gordon. He's not going to have that lob threat that Aaron Gordon is, but he is a 6'8", 3-and-D player who now with money on the line is going to get, for the next 1 to 2 months, a lot more playing time. This could be good. This could be bad.
He's a 6'8", you hope 3-and-D player. Definitely, he's a good defensive player who, let's see if he's a 3-and-D player. The 3 is questionable. But he's a nice reserve who is probably going to be above his head starting.
And maybe you're right.
As a project who's going to be above his head starting.
Maybe you're right. And maybe this is a moment for him.
Well, I don't think. I mean, this is to me the conversation to be had is that Jamal Murray has had the best start of his career by a mile. Like if you look at his monthly splits over the course of his career, his opening month has been pretty rough, and he's played like anybody who's talked to anybody around the league or watched for years. It's not like it's easy to see. Jamal plays his way into the season, and he showed up this year.
Shape is what you're saying.
Well, yes, but he showed up this year ready to go, and he's been awesome. And with no Christian Brown for weeks. Months probably, at least with the initial timeline we were given. And again, if you say Aaron Gordon's getting reevaluated with a hamstring injury in 4 to 6 weeks, that's a 8 to 12 week injury probably. So you're talking 2-3 months till he's really ready to go. So yes, they need Peyton Watson to play. They need Spencer Jones to play. They need Cam Johnson to play better. He finally has had a couple of good games lately after a really rough start. He's got to be a lot better. But they need Jamal Murray to keep playing like this. Because if Jamal Murray keeps playing like this with Jokic playing out of his mind, they can keep up. But if they have any issue with that, they're going to be struggling.
To this point, career high in scoring, career high in assists.
And a lot of that's because his numbers, like if you go look at his monthly splits for his career, they tend to go up as the season goes along, month by month by month. And this year, he came in at like the end of the season numbers. So even if he just stays flat all the way through, it's going to be very important for Denver because they've gotten off to a really good start, and staying up there in 2 or 3 in the West is imperative because it means you avoid playing the juggernaut until the conference finals.
Well, and Joker, the 2-man game between Joker and Jamal Murray is definitely good enough to prop them up. The problem here, like you're gonna be asking Joker to be a superhero night in and night out. You're not going to be able to manage his minutes the way that you wanted to. The good news is for the next month, they do have a pretty soft stretch of schedule. I'm looking at it right now. It's like Memphis, the Spurs who have their own injury issues, Suns, Mavs, Pacers, Hawks, Hornets. There's another Utah.
That's a lot of wins.
Dallas on there. So there's like it. It's a soft next month, but the biggest concern is wearing Joker down.
Right.
Which they did last year. They had to shut Joker down for a while.
Right. That was the whole point, was part of what's been so impressive about his season, which has been jaw-dropping, as we've talked about, is his minutes are down. His production is up with his minutes down. That's, related. What you said about the Lakers on here, your Lakers lesson after 1 month was personified tonight, Sunday night, Bontemps. They're good, but how good? So they won their 4th consecutive game on Sunday night. They also were up by 11 against the Jazz and had in the last 3 minutes and had to survive Keontae George, a 3-pointer in the air at the buzzer, which missed, and the Lakers squeak out of Salt Lake with a 2-point win. I think, all things considered, it's remarkable that they're 12-4, and after tonight, they are now 8-2 on the road, which is just awesome in the Western Conference. And they had an East Coast road trip already, but that is getting it done. But the question is, like, you look at tonight's game, it's a win, but this is what's kind of happened with the Lakers. Their defense isn't that impressive. Their advanced stats aren't that impressive. They have to be thrilled with their positioning, but I'm not so sure how much we believe in their that they're going to stay on this level.
Well, we have to find out, really, not even ask, find out how much of an impact LeBron can make once he gets in shape. Like tonight, his counting numbers are okay. 17 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, didn't shoot it great. But a minus 14 in the box score, and I can tell you, LeBron is playing transition defense like most dudes his age do, which is occasionally. Like,
Well,
I'm just telling, like,
well,
seriously, he talked about what he tell Mac-10 and the crew, something about he's got his baby lungs now, he's got get his grown man lungs. Like, seriously, there are many positions where he's not only is he not getting
I
back
think
on
it's the
defense.
opposite. I think his lungs are too old and he needs to be younger,
Sure.
not younger and needs to be older.
Well, whatever it is, he ain't crossing half court on a lot of defensive possessions.
Well,
and we'll see. He's
Okay.
obviously he wasn't able to train while he was doing the sciatica like he usually does. He's got to get in shape, and then we'll find out.
Well, and to your point about their schedule, like they are winning these road games, which is important. However, here are their road games: at Sacramento, at Minnesota. That was the Reeves game where he hit the game winner, not Luka.
In your face.
At Memphis, at Portland, at Atlanta, which was the game they lost by 20.
Nobody played for Atlanta and was
and they lost by 20.
Yeah.
At Charlotte, then the Thunder game, obviously, which didn't go great, and then at New Orleans, at Milwaukee with no Giannis, and at Utah. So now listen, they're winning the games. It goes back to the same thing. They have won a lot of games and they've beaten a lot of teams they should beat. Like, that sounds like an insult, but it's not an insult. When you're going through the 82 game schedule, like, a very important thing to do is to win the games you're supposed to win and not lose a game in Salt Lake City or lose to, like, the Warriors lost to the Pacers on the road.
Yeah.
They lost to the Milwaukee Bucks without Giannis on the road. They've had a lot of really disappointing losses this year. That's why they're 500. The Lakers have not had those losses. That's why the Lakers are 12-4. Like, that's the difference, is taking care of business in those games. And Austin Reeves has been great. Luka's been great. As you said, MacMahon, let's see where LeBron is at. But, like, are the Lakers really a top 4 team in the West? Are they really up there with Denver and Houston? Because I don't think anybody's with Oklahoma City. Or are they really more like the 5th or 6th or 7th-ish team in the West? And, like you said, they're around 15th in offense. They're around 15th in defense. They're around 15th in net rating. They're like, all the numbers scream they're kind of an average team.
Yeah.
But they've also had injuries and they've also won a lot of games they should win. So, they're probably going to be in the cup, assuming they could beat the Clippers on Tuesday, into the cup playoffs. So we'll see what happens there. But, as always with the Lakers, once you get past the new year, the schedule starts to ramp up and they start to play
LeBron's
a lot more games.
after that 500K.
Yes. So, but after New Year's, when the Lakers start to have their schedule go up and they start to play a lot of the TV games, and every year the schedule's backloaded for them. So we'll find out more about them. But I certainly think when you look at where they're at, to be 12-4 with the injuries they've had and sort of the up and down nature of their season, whatever the schedule, you have to look at it as a big win. And now we'll start to see over the next month, just what level they are.
I do not expect you guys to guess this player. I'm just going to...
Well, I'm good at these.
I know you are, but this is a pretty high standard. 22 points a game, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, just under 2 steals, 57% from the field, 41% from 3.
Jalen Johnson.
Who?
Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson is correct.
Dude, I want to start...
Less than after 1 month, there might be a blueprint for the post-Trae Young era.
Well, less than after 1 month. I'm damn good at these things.
That is actually pretty good. That was a pretty,
there's not too many guys going 22, 10, and 7.
And the key one there is, the key one there is shooting 57%. Because Jalen Johnson is getting a lot of dunks. There was a play in the game against New Orleans where he blocked a shot at the rim, went coast to coast, and yammed it at the other end. And, like, he is a 6'9", hyper athletic guy. He slipped in the draft to 19 or 20, wherever Atlanta took him. Ended up leaving Duke early the year he came out of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Hawks got him on not much of a spoiler alert, but when I do the best contract team story later this year,
yeah,
Jalen Johnson at $30 million a year at a power forward spot where there are not a lot of obvious candidates around the league. I suspect he will be the starter at that position because he looks like an all-star. And with Trey out, he's got the ball in his hands all the time. And they're big and physical everywhere. Their defense is really good. And, we'll see what happens with Trey going forward and whether they get a deal done with him or not. But you could see a vision for what the Hawks can be if he's not there, which is long, athletic, and, a really good top 5 level defensive team with an all-star 6'9" wing with the ball in his hands, making plays and scoring.
Well, and we talk about, like we mentioned, Amin Thompson is maybe the best athlete in the NBA. Jalen Johnson's the guy who's in that conversation. He's that type of athlete, but it's the skill development, and it's still a pretty small sample size, the 41.5% three-point shooting. We will see if that holds up. But the playmaking, I'm just going to read you his assists per game numbers throughout the course of his career. Rookie 0.1, barely played. 1.2, 3.6, 5.0. Unfortunately, last season was cut short, but you could really see it starting to develop there. 7.0 this year. And it's interesting. I've kind of been poking around about potential Ja, Trey, LaMelo Ball, what people perceive as their value or what their markets might be should their teams decide
each other.
Perhaps, should their teams decide to go in that direction, just trying to get a feel for it. And something one person said to me is, well, if Atlanta trades Trey, they've got to get a ball handler, primary ball handler in return. And, kind of to your point here, Bontemps, are you sure about that? Do they?
Well, especially with that pick coming from the Pelicans, which could be that ball handler, whether it's Darren Peterson or AJ DeBanza or, Mikael Brown from Louisville or, there's a lot of guys in the top 8 or 10 in the draft who can handle it quite a bit and, are also all big and long and fit into this vision of what this team in theory is headed towards. So, I mean, it's been a very interesting thing to watch. And again, their schedule hasn't been extraordinarily difficult either in these games without Trey. If you go through and you look at who they've played over the last few weeks, they're Sacramento, Utah. They lost to Detroit and San Antonio. They beat New Orleans and Charlotte. They lost to Cleveland. They lost to Toronto. So they've been up and down to some degree, but there is you could see a blueprint and you could see a foundation of what it can be. And it, like you said, it makes the Trae Young conversation an interesting one to monitor to see whether he picks up that option or what his future looks like in Atlanta, because you can, for the first time in a long time, see something without him there.
All right. The Clippers fell to 5-12 on Sunday after losing in Cleveland. The good news was Kawhi came back and actually looked pretty good in the 26 minutes he played. Had 20 points, hit 3 out of 5 on threes. Zubac kicked the Cavs on the interior. They were missing Jared Allen in that game. Zubac had 18 rebounds and went 15 to 22 from the field. Looked like an All-NBA player in this game, but unfortunately, I was watching Cavs Corner, and they were getting dominated by him. Donovan had 37 though. But anyway, the Clippers have had a tough road trip. They're 2-4 on their 7-game trip. They used to get to come home. They play at the Lakers to finish the road trip in the Cup game on
Tuesday.
Bontemps' lesson after 1 month is you can get old fast in the NBA. And look, all I'm going to say is one guy broke his hip and another guy retired a month into the season, which is what Chris Paul is going to do at the conclusion of the year. And, as a quick, note, I just want to say that Chris Paul has had an absolutely amazing career. What happens this season is probably going to be forgotten.
Yeah.
He's one of the best point guards of all time and a first ballot Inner Circle Hall of Fame. No question.
And
an incredible
retirement tour. I wonder if he regrets playing this season, because it would have been a pretty damn just because he is one of the most ruthless competitors I've ever encountered. And it would have been something for him to go out as an 82-game starter last year for a team that he helped lift to at least respectability.
I was going to say, and a guy who was pretty good for the Spurs too. And watching the Clippers play, I saw them in Philly the other day, and it was ironic to me to see them playing the Clippers, or the Clippers playing the Sixers the other day, because they remind me a lot of last year's Sixers team, where they had a lot of veteran players that they brought in that they thought could, come in and be good for them for last season, and they all got old at the same time. And that's kind of how the Clippers feel. I mean, Bradley Beal obviously did not replace Norm Powell in any way, shape, or form like we thought. Chris Paul was very good last year in San Antonio. Like, he was a net positive easily for the Spurs. I thought he was going to be able to come in and give them good minutes behind James Harden and play 10, 15 minutes a game and be a useful player off the bench. He's been awful. They just across Brook Lopez, I thought was a good signing. He has looked very old. They just look very old and very slow. And when you watch the way the league is evolving and how fast the game is and how all these teams with youth and depth are having success, it just feels like they have gone the other way and it's caught them all at once. And that's without getting into the, all the ups and downs of Kawhi and everything off the court and beyond that. We should say, though, while they have been terrible, James Harden has been unbelievable.
He's playing his efficiency is down from where it was when he was at his peak, but he's playing every night and he's trying as hard as he can.
And he's been incredible. I mean, he had 55 on Saturday. Then one of their 5 wins, they beat Charlotte on the road on Saturday. He had 55. He had 27 in the first quarter of that game.
Hell, he had a 40-something point triple-double against the Mavericks in another one of their wins. I mean, look, he's having to be a superhero for them to beat bad teams.
To be competitive at all. Like in Philly the other night, he had a crazy line. And that the Philly one wasn't great, but he had 37, 7, and 8 the night before in a loss to Boston. He had 31 and 8 in the loss to Orlando the other day. Like, he had 35, 10, and 11 in a loss to Atlanta. He's just put up one giant game after another, and it's been a rough season for them, but he has been awesome.
How about this stat? Most 50-point games in NBA history. Okay. Wilt's number 118.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the dude averaged 50 in one season.
That's ridiculous.
Jordan's number 2 with 31.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden is now number 3.
Is he tied with Kobe or did he break that tie?
He tied Kobe.
Okay.
Co-number 3 with 25. He also one of 8 players in NBA history to simultaneously hold multiple franchises' single game scoring records, which he now does with he set the Clippers record on Saturday, and he holds the Rockets as well. This list is fascinating. Did you guys see this list?
No.
Yes.
It's a fascinating list. I don't think you'd ever. Well, Wilt's one of them with the Warriors and 76ers.
Harden's the only guy to do it with 2 active franchises.
Okay. Who are the other ones?
In other words, they don't necessarily have the record still.
Yes.
But at one point, we're holding.
Okay, give me the list.
Holding the book. 2 other players are active. You want to take a guess at the 2 other active players? And I will tell you, MacMahon, that both of them held the record for the same team.
LeBron and Kyrie.
You got it. He's just kicking ass on this.
Well, I mean, that was a pretty easy, I'm thinking of damn good scores, and they both have, they both play for the Cavaliers.
Donovan happened to score 70 in a game recently, so.
Yeah, plus I knew that Kyrie broke LeBron's record for Cleveland, so that one.
That game in San Antonio, which was still probably one of the most amazing games I've ever seen.
I would have gone out on a limb and guessed LeBron regardless of any hints, by the way.
It's a safe bet.
Do you so Kyrie scored 57. That was the record that Donovan broke when he had 70 a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. LeBron scored 56, I think, in his second year in the league. I mean, that was a game in Toronto on the Sunday afternoon. Anyway, the others are Jamal Mashburn.
Oh, okay.
One of them was with the Mavericks.
I remember he had a 50 piece for the Mavs.
Glenn Rice. Kelly Tripucka.
Oh, wow. We could have been here all night. I wouldn't have gotten there.
Well, and this last one, I would make a Bob Pettit joke here. I'm not even 100%. So I don't know this guy.
Spit it out.
He's what's his name? What did you just say?
I said spit it out.
I'm worried about mispronouncing his last name.
Bontemps.
Don Kolgis? Kojis?
Please spell it because I'm trying to look him up. Is that a K?
Kojis.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I'll give you the. They don't have a pronunciation thing on Basketball Reference.
I'm kind of embarrassed that I don't know.
I've never heard of this gentleman.
So his career scoring record was 12 points a game.
He was drafted by the Chicago Packers, but never played with them. He played with a bunch of teams that don't exist anymore.
Right. I'm sorry. I just did not know this guy, but he apparently at one time held the Bulls and Rockets scoring records.
The San Diego Rockets. A two-time All-Star for the San Diego Rockets.
I'm discovering. Yes, he played for the Kansas City Omaha Kings. He played for the Baltimore Bullets.
Seattle Supersonics.
I'll bet Bob Pettit kicked his ass.
He did play. Oh, he did play for the Bulls.
I
think Bob was off the. I think Bob might have been off the.
Hold on, no, I'm going to do a little Bob Pettit. Hold on, keep speaking. I got to fire up.
Anyway, he played 1 year. He played 1 year for the Bulls and averaged 10 points a game, and apparently in that year set their.
You're not going to get any Don Kojis coverage like you get here on the Hoop Collective. I can tell you that.
Right. That's
so
right.
He had a 42-point game in LA against the Lakers. The game before he had 5 points. The game after he had 8. But he had a 42-point game.
It's like the Tony Delk 50-pointer.
Amazing. Anyway, that was I do want to say Chris Paul. He is second all time in assists at a little over 12,500. And I just want to, honor John Stockton here. Now, Stockton famously got sort of help from the Jazz scorers. Having said that,
he also played every game for 20 years, basically.
That's right. So Chris Paul, who's in his 21st season, I believe, he is in second place. He's got 500 more assists than Jason Kidd, who was in third, and 1,000 more assists than LeBron, who was in fourth. But he is still 3,000 behind John Stockton. He is closer to Oscar Robertson at 9th than he is to John Stockton at 1. And meanwhile, he is also second all time in steals at over 2,700, also just ahead of Jason Kidd, who's third. He is 500 behind John Stockton, and that would be about all the way back to 10th. He's closer to Hakeem Olajuwon at 10th than he is to John Stockton at 1.
Those are two that I thought for a long time that those two stats, the steals and assists records all time, were not going to get broken. I also thought that the career blocks record was not going to get broken because Hakeem is 600 ahead of Dikembe and everybody else. But if the young fella in San Antonio can stay on the court, I think he might be able to catch Hakeem.
The record,
because he's getting like 5 a game. Okay,
but I've talked about this in the pod before. About 5 years ago, I did a story on the most unbreakable NBA records. You know, there's some that are kind of preposterous, such as Chamberlain averaging 48.5 minutes a game.
Okay. Yes.
But if we're talking about career records, I think Moses Malone's offensive rebounds.
Yes.
So Moses Malone, combining ABA and NBA, which I think is only fair, he has like 2,700 more than second place, which is Artis Gilmore. And how about this, MacMahon? Can you tell me the active offensive rebound leader?
It ain't Steven Adams.
It is not.
I'm gonna guess it's
Adams
Andre
is
Drummond.
42nd.
DeAndre Jordan.
DeAndre Jordan is 29th, but not 29th all time, but not the active leader.
I'm gonna guess it's Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond. So Andre Drummond. So Moses. So just it's it's a stat. Like, so Moses Malone had 7,300 offensive rebounds. Artis Gilmore had 4,800. He's second. And so you're talking about like he's 3,000 ahead of Charles Barkley. He's 3,000 ahead of Shaquille O'Neal. He's 3,500 ahead of Dwight Howard. Like Dwight Howard played like what, 16, 17 years, was, he had 4,100. Like he's barely halfway there. So I think that record is, but anyway, this is all a digression.
Fellas, Bob Pettit went 9-5 in his career against Don Kogis. I believe that's how to pronounce that. And in those 14 games, Pettit scored 413 points, including a 52-pointer. Old Don went for 89 in the 14 games. So yeah, he
but I tell you something, Don could get hot.
Did not have Bob Pettit's number.
No,
Don could get hot.
Clearly.
Yeah, I learned who he was today when I saw that number.
Yeah, but, he's. Oh no, he passed away a few years back. That's unfortunate. Well,
he passed away in 2021.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the point about the Clippers is that we're honoring historical numbers. We're certainly not honoring modern numbers, which is they got a bunch of guys who are going to be in Springfield and are hot at the top of all these charts, but they're not helping them in 25-26 that much. Even though I know Harden is playing well. It's not,
and you know who they are helping? The damn Oklahoma City Thunder.
I know.
I mean, my goodness, how many lottery picks? You get Shea, you get Dub. Do you really need another lottery pick out of that deal?
Well, and it's worth pointing out that as of right now, they are still projected to be 9th in the West and one game back of the Suns in 8th.
Well, and as you said, contrary to what people thought going in, the middle of the West is not good. All right, there are. It appears there's 8 good teams in the West, 7 or 8. Better than
Suns, by the way.
Better than 6, 7, but 7 or 8.
I knew we were doing that. We got to give the Suns some credit while we were doing the pod. The Suns with another nice win, giving the Spurs their first loss since Victor got hurt. It's just they've done a really nice job. They keep stacking up wins, but the Clippers have a chance to still play it out because a lot of these other teams, like I would say Memphis is better than the Clippers, but I'm not convinced Memphis is going to be trying to be better than the Clippers. And Dallas and Sacramento and a lot of these other teams have their pick and have some incentive to make sure they're not as good as they can be.
Utah's got a wee bit of incentive. Speaking of Oklahoma City on picks.
Sure, Utah, New Orleans. I mean, New Orleans just isn't very good. But the point is, like, the Clippers and Suns are the teams down there that have some upside and are motivated to win every game they can. And so if you're gaming it out, the Clippers, at least in theory, should be able to get into the play-in and maybe potentially mitigate some of the embarrassment of that pick. But if James Harden gets hurt at all, or if Kawhi is out of the lineup more, it might not matter. And, I tweeted it the other day in the middle of one of these games. I was waiting for the internet to break in May. We get to the draft lottery, and the Thunder wind up with Darren Peterson or AJ DeBanza or Cameron Boozer or one of these guys with this Clipper pick, and the world just melts down.
By the way, when Chris Paul does retire, we'll close the book on the 2005 draft class, which, was always stories from draft classes, but that was, the who's better, Darren Williams or Chris Paul draft. And Fran Vasquez got picked as a lottery pick by the Magic and then never ever came. And there was that blog for years, the rights to Ricky Sanchez. Ricky Sanchez was drafted, I think. But anyway, beyond all that, beyond all those digressions, I'm getting infamous for. He was the last guy standing in the 2005 draft class by 4 years.
Yeah.
Nobody else from the 2005 class. The last one standing before him was Lou Williams. So, I mean, that's saying something because, you would not have expected the 6-foot guy necessarily to last that long. And so,
yeah, so credit to his competitiveness, and he's had an unbelievable career, and I'm glad we'll get to see him go around the circuit one more time and get feted, but it's probably not going to be the most enjoyable season in Clipperland.
Yeah. Jackson says that Kogis is rumored to have invented the alley-oop.
Hold on.
Don Kogis, who would have known?
Was he alleying or ooping?
I assume he was ooping. I don't know, though. I shouldn't assume.
I'd never known he existed before.
I'd like to try to
fun little story.
I'd like to try to teach some history.
You're a man of the people.
Oh, hold on. Oh, okay. Hey, I'm a little. This is the Google machine, so I have not checked any of this info. But he is sometimes credited with developing the alley-oop. First with the Phillips 66ers and later the NBA Chicago Bulls. He perfected a play called the Kangaroo Craw, where Kogis, nicknamed the Kangaroo Kid, would catch a pass in the air and dunk it. The Kangaroo Kid, Don Kogis.
All right, with that, thank you to Jackson for putting up with us. Sorry about that trip to South Bend this weekend, Jackson.
Oh, hey.
Hope you had a good time.
Oh, speaking of college football, Mean Green 10-1 might be seeing the old Mean Green in the college football playoff, boys.
Oh, that would be interesting. We might have to get together to watch that one. Thank you to MacMahon. Thank you to Bontemps. Thank you for watching and listening to the Hoop Collective. Reminder, Friendsgiving coming up on Wednesday's podcast. It'll be a long episode. God knows what we're going to have in it. God knows the editing Jackson's going to have to do. But that will be no podcast on Friday. So Friendsgiving for your traveling pleasure or displeasure.
One thing to cut in really quick at the end, because it was a couple days ago, but shout out to a friend of all of ours, Chris DeMarco, for getting the head coaching job at the New York Liberty over the weekend. Sean's reported that, I think, on Friday. Known Chris a long time.
Bahamian national team coach.
Yes, coached the Bahamian national team.
Right-hand man for years, by the way. We started off with Klay, we end with Klay's guy.
Yep. He's been with the Warriors since 2012. Pre-Steve Kerr, was on Mark Jackson's staff and was with Klay and Draymond and Steph and all those guys for the whole run. And it's cool he's getting a chance to go win a title with the Liberty team that's going to be staffed.
That's a heck of a job to get coming out of that. That's a pretty good job to get.
It's a great job. So it's excited for Chris. It's going to be awesome.
All right. Talk to you later this week.
Adios, amigos.